What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel in the 2024 UFL Final. The inaugural season of the United Football League is coming to its much-awaited conclusion tomorrow. Sorry for getting this video out so late, but it is here. Nonetheless, the UFL Final prediction, the UFL Championship, and I am really excited for this matchup. The lone loss the Stallions suffered were at the hands of the San Antonio Brahmas, and they get a chance to avenge that loss and win their third straight Spring League title, while the Brahmas look to shock the UFL world. Which one's going to happen? Which one do I think is going to happen? That is what this video is here for. However, I am putting out a ton more videos on my channel because I am predicting all 134 FBS level college football teams. That is what I am doing this summer. If you're a college football fan, you do not want to miss it. I suggest you subscribe and ring the bell so you know when every single team has a video up on my channel. Thank you for all your love and support of the UFL series. It means a lot to me. Like, comment, share, and do anything else you can to help interact with the channel because it does mean a lot to me. I'm really excited to dive on into this game. I think this is going to be a very, very fun game, but in order to know how these two teams are going to fare entering the 2024 UFL Championship, we have to know how each team did in their semifinal game. The Brahmas, to a lot of people's surprise, beat the St. Louis Battlehawks. San Antonio obviously is the Brahmas. The Brahmas beat the St. Louis Battlehawks 25-15 on the road to get to the UFL Championship game, and the offense was led by the rushing duo. Anthony McFarland had 118 yards on only 11 carries off the top of my head there, including, I believe, a 60-plus yard run in which he ended up scoring on a very dynamic play there. John Lovett was also back there as well, rushing really, really well, and I believe the Brahmas' rushing attack in total had over 6, maybe even over 7 yards per carry in their last game, and their defense stepped up big time to open the game. They did not allow the Battlehawks to do anything, and sure, while they gave up a little bit as the game went on into its later stages, it was just complete domination, especially on the line of scrimmage. The Brahmas were able to get back to A.J. McCarron. They were able to force a lot of sacks, force some tackles for loss, even able to force a turnover or two there as well. But the the line of scrimmage is really what helped the San Antonio Brahmas win that game, and they continued to be an excellent defensive team on third down. But again, back to my point about the defense starting out the game really, really well. They just didn't allow that Battlehawk offense to do anything at all. Now, again, sure, they gave up things later in that game, but the Brahmas offense just got out to too big of a lead to where, with how well this Brahmas defense was playing, it just didn't really seem to matter at all. That is going to come in key when they play Birmingham, because the Stallions, 28 unanswered points after the turnover issues that plagued Adrian Martinez throughout his college career at Nebraska, came back to bite him and came through in the USFL Championship game, or I should say, yes, the USFL Conference Championship game, the technical UFL semifinal. Matt Corral was entered the game, and he was spectacular. I believe was 9-11 passing, over 150 yards, 28 unanswered points by the Stallions to beat the Michigan Panthers in the USFL Conference Championship game. But turnovers told the story. I believe there were 5, 6, maybe even 7 turnovers in the third quarter alone. But one of them was a pick 6 from Daniel Isom that tied the game and really started to flip the script of how this game was going to go. And I've mentioned it before. They get a rematch of their only regular season loss. You know this is the Stallions team that is going to be motivated to not only avenge their lone blemish in that loss column, but they also are going to be motivated to win their third straight Spring League title. And I know I'm talking on to a lot of people's list a much bigger scale here, but the Stallions would be the first team to win 3 titles back to back to back since the Lakers did it in 2000 and 2002 in American sports history. So the Stallions can cement their place in the record books with a title on Sunday afternoon. Let's dive on into talking about what happened in this last matchup. We have to know, how did the Brahmas and Stallions fare during the regular season? I've alluded to it many times, but it was a win for the San Antonio Brahmas. An 18-9 win over the Birmingham Stallions. Again, their lone loss of the 2024 season. What worked for the San Antonio Brahmas? Well, the gradual pass game worked to perfection. Sure, they had some good chunk plays in there, but they really were able to just move down the field, take it step by step. They controlled the pace of the game, took the ball out of the Stallions' hands when it needed to, and they were much better offensively on third downs. The Brahmas are not a great offensive team on third downs. I believe they were 5 of 10, 5 of 11 in the game against the Birmingham Stallions. So already a much, much better third down performance, you could say, from this team. And that really helped them, because when the Stallions figured, like, okay, we got them into the third down situation, let's get a stop here, the numbers would suggest that they would be able to do that. The Brahmas were able to convert, and they were able to keep some drives alive, and I think eventually utilize that to go down the field and score some points that the Stallions would have liked to keep off the board. And speaking of points off the board, the Stallions just couldn't really generate any sort of offense in that game on a consistent basis. The offense had rhythm. It was able to drive down the field. It was able to get vaguely close to the red zone, but as soon as it reached a certain point, that's when the Brahmas defense absolutely locked in. It was right on the fringe of field goal range, but when you take a look at what the Birmingham Stallions had going for them offensively, again, it was rhythm. Adrian Martinez had himself a pretty solid day, and the receiving core definitely had a pretty good day as well. I believe Jay Sternberger had an absolutely enormous day when he faced the San Antonio Brahmas in Week 9, but again, the offense just lacked sort of that finish. It lacked sort of that final punch that it needed to be able to get past this Brahmas defense that's been really, really good all season long, and there really was no run support for Adrian Martinez at all. He was kind of running for his life. Just goes to show you how good this Brahmas defense is. It was a Tease Tabor interception that I believe ended up sealing this game, but the defense couldn't stop the Brahmas rhythm. Again, when they got into that third down situation, you would think the numbers are in your favor. Nope, the Stallions were not able to stop it, but the penalties were the killers here. 7 penalties for the Stallions in this game against the Brahmas back on May 25th, which, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, may very well be a season high for the Stallions. Now that I'm thinking about it, they may have had 8 penalties in a game, but nonetheless, not a team that really gets penalized a whole lot. It's the Brahmas that have had some penalty issues this season, so that was a little surprising there in that contest. Nonetheless, though, the Stallions are going to look to avenge their only loss in the regular season to try to win a UFL championship, while the Brahmas are going to look to repeat what they did in Week 9. Let's go ahead and take a look at some players to watch. We got 5 players from each team, some offense, some defense, and I'll talk about why they are interesting players to watch and why you need to take into account these specific players when you are trying to predict who is going to win the 2024, the inaugural UFL Championship. You have to talk about some of the skill position players here. Anthony McFarland has been absolutely dynamic. He was dynamic against the Stallions in their Week 9 game. He made a huge difference makers that may very well have been the first or second game that he came back for from his little injury stint that he had, but he was a really big difference maker again. Ripped off that 60-plus yard run last week in the XFL Conference Championship game. McFarland will be a big piece again in this puzzle, as will leading receiver Jontre Kirkland. He is a big play threat, and where the Stallions are weak is their secondary. If you're going to try to find a weakness with this team, it is that secondary. Jontre Kirkland can very well have himself a big day. By the way, McFarland's not that bad of a pass catcher out of the backfield himself. We're going to skip over the tight end because I want to talk about the tight ends in tandem. As you'll see, the tight end for the Stallions is there as well. So let's go to the defense. Yes, I could have put Tease Tabor. Yes, I could have put Jordan Mosley here, but I went again with Tavante Beckett. Again, a very, very good linebacker that can create pressure, is very good in open space. Look for him to make some pretty decisive tackles in this game. And then Darius Phillips had a great game this past week. Look for him to carry that momentum over. Had a couple pass breakups, I believe 3 tackles. One of those pass breakups, I believe, was a near pick there as well. Darius Phillips had his impact felt the entire game against the St. Louis Battlehawks, and he'll need to be a big part here against what can be a pretty dynamic passing attack for the Birmingham Stallions. Let's talk about the Stallions now. Some players to watch. Watch the quarterback play in general, no matter if it's Adrian Martinez or Matt Corral. Now, what do you have to watch for those respective names? Well, I'm about to tell you. Adrian Martinez, if turnovers continue to plague him here, the Stallions may very well find themselves in a rut. And yes, you can come back from that against the Michigan Panthers. You can go score 28 points, even though with how solid of a defensive team that is. The Brahmas take that to a next level. If the Michigan Panthers are a good defensive team, which I believe they are, maybe even a great defensive team, the Brahmas are an elite defensive team. And if the Stallions dig themselves a hole, and if Martinez is going to have turnover trouble, he is expected to start this game. That's not going to lead to very good things for the Birmingham Stallions at all. But if Matt Corral comes back in, will he be the hero again? Can he continue to play as well as he did last week in the USFL Conference Championship game? Watch the quarterback play for the Stallions. It will be important. Moving on to the defensive side, again, I told you we were skipping over the tight ends for right now. DeAndre Tillman had a big game this past week, had a couple of sacks, and the overall just had his impact fell off the edge all game long against the Michigan Panthers. DeMarquise Gates is a phenomenal linebacker for this team, as is Kayava Tizino. Both of them had very good games this past week. And look for that linebacking group. Again, this is a Stallions team that is weak in the secondary. The linebacking group is responsible for picking up some of that slack, as well as the defensive line getting pressure. So look for DeAndre Tillman to be brought in some pretty interesting packages. DeMarquise Gates and Kayava Tizino, flipped his initials there in my head for a second. Look for them to make some really, really big plays. They're going to make some plays rushing the quarterback. They'll make some big plays in coverage. They're just going to be making big plays all over the field. But now I want to talk about these tight ends, because the receiving numbers will tell you that these are the best two tight ends in the entire league. Last time these two teams played, Jay Sternberger of the Stallions had an absolutely phenomenal game. Cody Latimer has been one of the most reliable tight end targets all season long, and no matter if it's Chase Garbers or anyone else that plays quarterback for this Brahmas team, there is chemistry. Quentin Dormady is the other name I was thinking of. Couldn't think of the name there for a second. He's got connections with both of them, and he is Mr. Reliable. When you need a conversion, when you need a short touchdown inside the red zone, Cody Latimer is your guy. The tight ends are going to play huge factors in this game, and I can't wait to watch Cody Latimer and Jay Sternberger suit up there. But now it is time for the official prediction. All lines and odds are as of recording this video, but you can find this game 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow afternoon / evening, depending on what time zone you're in, on Fox, and it is going to be held in America's Dome in St. Louis, Missouri, right where the Brahmas just won their XFL Conference Championship game. Little bit of an advantage for San Antonio, possibly, but I think both these fan bases are going to travel really, really well. The Stallions are the 3-point favorite, with the over-under being 41.5, so a fairly defensive game expected here, but I do not expect another 18-9 type game. I don't expect that much defense. There's going to be a little bit more offense, and I'll talk about why I think that in a second. For right now, let's dive into the keys for the game. We're going to run through them here really, really quickly, but for the Brahmas, it's all about creating that offensive rhythm, like they were able to do in the Stallions in Week 9, get that rhythm flowing. I think you're going to have to be a little bit more dynamic. Yes, there were some really, really good plays that the Brahmas were able to make against the Stallions in their Week 9 game, but like last week, you may very well need Anthony McFarland to rip off one of those 60-plus yard runs. You may need Jontre Kirkland or Cody Latimer or any other weapon to explode and have that long touchdown. That's going to be a very, very important factor here in this game, I believe. You also have to continue to create pressure, and along with that, continue your dominance on the offensive line of scrimmage. Get back to the quarterback, whether it's Martinez or Corral, get him on the ground. Don't let the Stallions' rush game get going, and limit what the Stallions are able to do offensively with the amount of pressure you're able to bring from your defensive line, and get your secondary to play press there as well. But you cannot give the Stallions any sort of gifts. That means no costly penalties, no turnovers. The Brahmas don't necessarily have to play perfect, because they did not play perfect in the game in Week 9. You do have to play a really good brand of football to beat the Stallions team with how talented they are, but you cannot give them any sort of gifts. Now let's talk about the keys for the Stallions. Again, quarterback play is a thing to watch here. Is Martinez going to be able to avoid the turnover issues he had this past week? He is expected to be the starter in this game. The UFL MVP needs to have a good performance here. Again, if the Stallions are going to get themselves in a hole, Matt Corral's a talented enough player to get them out of it, and there is enough talent in this offensive room with the running backs and the wide receivers and Sternberger at tight end to be able to come out of that. But against the defense as good as San Antonio, it's going to be a little bit of a harder task than what they accomplished this past week. Again, while the Brahmas cannot give themselves gifts, the Stallions may need to create some forced turnovers like you were able to do this past week, force those negative plays. You need to start to win the line of scrimmage battle. You have to be able to create some pushback, both offensively, defensively, because the Brahmas are a very, very physical and really, really good defensive team. But like it did in the regular season game, penalties will matter. The Brahmas have had penalty issues for the first half of the season. They've kind of cleaned them up since, and the Stallions have really started to see that discipline lacking in a lot of ways. Now, both of these teams definitely still have their struggles with penalties. They are going to matter big time. I just have a feeling that there is going to be some ref ball in play here. And I know that's a thing that you want to try to avoid predicting, but penalties, I think, are going to matter in this game. You could see a couple big calls that help swing momentum one way or the other. Now it's time for my official prediction. And if you've been on my channel before and you've heard me cover college football, things like that, it is really, really hard to beat a good team like the Stallions once. It is extremely difficult to beat them twice, and if you get a third matchup, it is near impossible to beat them a third time. I shouldn't say near impossible. It's just very, very hard because it's easier to make adjustments from a loss than it is from a win. And that's what the Stallions are going to do. If Martinez has some turnover issues, I think head coach Skip Holtz is going to recognize that and flip to Corral right away. That 3-point line, I like the Brahmas to cover, but not enough to bring them the UFL Championship. So the Birmingham Stallions, they've been the best team from start to finish, and that is who I am going with here. My unofficial preseason pick in the Birmingham Stallions will come through, win their third straight spring league title, and join some pretty good company among American sports history. I think the Birmingham Stallions are an exceptionally coached team. They're a very, very talented team, and this is a Birmingham Stallions team that is looking for a lot more than just their third straight title. They want to avoid that repeat of what happened in Week 9, and I think they will. I think that costly penalty, that extra turnover will be made by the Stallions. The extra offensive plays will be there. They will be able to convert, and a 21-19 win to bring home the inaugural UFL Championship home to Birmingham, Alabama. Please let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section below. I am very excited for this game. I think it's going to be a very intriguing matchup and should be a good game from start to finish. That's going to do it for my UFL coverage. There will be no reaction video unless you guys really want me to make one. Leave it in the comment section down below if you do. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, this, for the moment, concludes my UFL coverage for 2024. It's been a pleasure covering this league for you, and we will get back to focusing on college football predictions. Enjoy the UFL Championship. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and tune in for college football predictions. Goodbye.